So, hi everyone, Chris here from IELTS Advantage with another success story. So, we have Divya, and she's going to share her success story with you. And what we're going to talk about is a few of the things that she had an issue with, a few of the things that she was struggling with, and how she overcame those problems. And we were just discussing this that teachers can help you, I can help you to a certain extent, but I can't really relate to you in the same way that a successful student can. And she'll be able to give you some great advice because she was in the exact same position as many of you guys. So, Divya, can we start off with just a little bit of information about yourself? Just introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Divya. I work for an IT organization here in India, and I aspire to move to Canada, and that's the reason I took up IELTS exam. And to begin with, I wrote the exam for twice before I joined the course, so it was I already had given up hope. Like my writing was always stuck in 6.5, and I thought that that's where it's going to be. I just can't improve this. There is no way it's going to go more than that. And finally took a decision to try different methods and different strategies and see if it's working. And yes, it worked.
Yeah. Congratulations. So that is probably the most common problem that I hear every day. I'm stuck at 6.5. The rest of my scores are fine. How do I get to my writing to a 7 or above? So can you share the scores that you got with everyone?
Sure. During the last exam, the last attempt, I've got a listening 8, reading 8, speaking 8, and writing is 7.
Congratulations. That's great.
Thank you.
And so
Thank
let
you.
so now that you've got those scores, let's look back to when the time when you kept getting 6.5. What were you struggling with? So it could be, specific things about the exam, or it could be, broader things. So what were you in particular? What were you suffering with? I can't speak today. It's very, very tired today. What were you struggling with?
Uh, to be honest, the main reason I was struggling with the writing part is because I had too many advices. Like my friends who had cleared the exam already, they were giving their own advice, and I had also gone for a course here locally, and it was not a date from a native teacher. So there again, you get so many advices from them, and with those advices, I had attempted the exam twice, and I know that it is not working. But finally, when I took up this course and I started relating with all the advices I was getting, I knew that I was off track. It was totally off track. Uh, Especially people asking you to use big words in writing. And they say that you just can't repeat even a single word again
Mhm.
during your essay. And all this took up so much of time when I was doing my IELTS exam. You just can't manage the time then. So that was the reason I was not able to complete my exam on time, or I always was like I could have done better than that. Whenever I used to come out of the IELTS exam, I used to feel like, oh, what did I do there? So the advice, and when we go online and when we search for multiple materials, there are a lot of training materials available there, and one contradicts the other,
Mhm.
and we just don't know which to choose and which one is the right one.
Yeah. And
So we end up in all confusion, and
mhm.
that's the main challenge I had before I started doing this course.
Yeah, just to start off with your last point, that's absolutely true. There is so much confusing and conflicting advice out there. There's so many different sources of information, and some of them are reliable and some of them aren't. But to go back to your first points, talking about vocabulary. So with vocabulary, you're talking about your teacher told you, or the other teacher that you had before told you to use very big words and to never repeat any words. So if you tell someone that, that's a huge problem because it's impossible to do that. It's impossible to write an essay and not repeat certain words. And also, you're spending the whole time when you're writing trying to think of these big complicated words instead of actually just clearly answering the question. So I think that's what I advised you on. I said, Just do, you can repeat words. You should try and vary your language as much as possible. But if you repeat a word, you repeat a word. And it's better to use a simple word that is correct than a big complicated word that is just wrong or takes you way too much time to think of. So would you agree with that advice?
Yes, Chris. To be honest, when I was doing the exam and during the first two times, I was thinking like you cannot repeat another word. And it was not possible during the exam to check each and every word and see where you can keep replacing it. It was not happening. And finally, I did not have enough time to again review my essay and do the necessary corrections for grammar and vocabulary. There was simply not enough time. And when
Yeah.
I was doing the modules in the VIP course, there came the module where you were talking about vocabulary, and I was like, here we go. I can't repeat the words again, and that's what Chris is going to say. And and it was like you told me the first thing was that's absolutely ridiculous. You cannot do that. You'll just have to think of related words as much as possible. Plan it before you start writing the essay, and then focus on your grammar and vocabulary. I was like, thank God. Okay, fine. So let me know. That's not what the goal. It's not about.
Mhm.
And there are multiple people. Like I know so many people here who are still following that. We still
Mhm.
have local teachers here, and when I get to meet them in my group and all that, I was like, please stop doing this. That's not the way. That's not actually. It's not how you do your exam.
Like
So
I was doing a class I was teaching thousands of people at the same time online, and I was writing out a paragraph, and I repeated one word, and hundreds of students were going like, "Oh, why did you do that? How, you know nothing. You know nothing because you repeated that word." And I think it was the name of a city. I think it was Paris, and I said like, "Well, how do I change that word? To maybe you could say the capital of France, but let's say the word was not the capital of France. Let's say it was Bordeaux. Like, how do you change the word a city or a country or a date? You can't. You have to repeat it. And then words like articles and prepositions and things like that, you have to repeat. Try writing an essay and not repeat, use the word the or the use a or the use of many times. And it's that advice is just making everything much more difficult for you. So a teacher is really supposed to make things easier for you, but that advice is making it more difficult and causing you to, one of the reasons to that you're going to fail the test. So yeah, it's a big problem, and there are many things like that. Not just about vocabulary, but many other things that where I don't know why these teachers tell people what they say, but they do. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that? Because I don't know. I've stopped trying to figure it out, but why do you think there's so much bad advice out there?
uh, first, they themselves don't know, Chris. Like they're not native speakers, and they do not know. When I submitted my essay for correction the first time to the my previous teacher, I just got she had corrected only one word, saying here instead of using with, you can use among, and that was all the correction in there. And I was like, oh, I did a brilliant job. There is no errors in my essay, and see, I can go and write my IELTS exam now. I wrote it and it got stuck in 6.5. Second attempt, again, 6.5. After doing your course, when I submitted my essay for correction to you, there were only red lines throughout my essay. And I was like, oh my God, is this how it is? But that is what helped me. If the course helped me for 60%, the other 40% was the feedback I got for the essay correction. It
Hmm.
was like bang on. Everywhere you used, let it be the articles or the way I have explained my points, and it is not clear. And when I saw your feedback, then I realized how it would look to an examiner when they read it for the first time. It's
Yeah,
not going to make any sense to them if I keep writing like this.
yeah.
And the big word formula, the very first time you gave me, like, stop using all this if you don't know how to use it correctly. So
Yeah.
that was like, okay, let's not just put words there just for the sake of using a big words and all that.
Yeah,
So your feedback was great, Chris.
there's
Seriously.
two reasons why I think a lot of teachers don't give the amount of feedback that I give. A, it takes a lot of time. So I correct every single mistake and give you advice on it. But B, when I give that feedback back to a student, they're not happy. They're not happy at all because I've just ripped apart every single thing every single sentence is ripped apart and redone, and a mistake is highlighted. It's just a sea of red. And for a lot of people, it's just easier just to tell them, yeah, everything is great, and then everybody's happy. I don't work like that. I would rather you pass the exam and for me to give you critical feedback. But don't get me wrong, I'm not overly critical, but I tell you the way it is, and I tell you the things that the examiner is going to point out. So I think, again, for people watching this, if your teacher is looking at your writing and just saying, yeah, everything's great, it's probably not. And you should seek out constructive criticism, as it's the only way that you're going to improve. The only way you're going to get better is to constantly not fail the exam, but constantly make mistakes, find out what those mistakes are and fix those mistakes. And that's the only way to improve. Would you agree with that?
Yes, Chris. Especially when in the feedback you just say that this sentence, this idea, I'm not able to understand that. You just write that in the bracket saying that I'm not able to understand that. The very first time I was like, it's very clear what is wrong with this. And then you wouldn't believe me. In the middle of the night, I was just thinking, oh, he really didn't understand that. Let me read through it again. And then the third time, the fourth time when I was reading that essay. Yes, this is not actually making sense. I could have said this in a better way. I could have presented this in a better way. And that's where I started getting answers. And when I was writing my exam this time in IELTS, I could literally hear your voice next to me, like, this sentence is not making any sense to me. Okay, let me rewrite this. So the feedback, it finally helped, Chris.
Yeah, I think it's teaching people the reason why we write something is so that someone can read it. So the only reason why we write something is to clearly communicate with the reader, not to show off how great our grammar is or show off how great our vocabulary is. And when students start to think about that, then they start to kind of put themselves in the shoes of the reader and empathize with the reader a little bit more, and then their writing really, really improves. And so taking that focus away from showing off to just writing clearly and communicating clearly. So thank you very much for sharing that, and thank you for clearing up some doubts, because there are hundreds of things like that. There are hundreds of things that teachers are telling, not all teachers, some teachers are great, but there are some teachers that are telling people things that are having the opposite effect on their grades than they should, making people go backwards rather than forwards. So it's great to hear that from a student, and because students can empathize with you more than they can with me. So Divya, what will you be able to do now that you've got your scores? What will you be able to do?
This score, it has helped me to increase my CRS score by like 40 points now. So I'm in the race again. And I'm hoping to get my IT in the next few months so that I can move to Canada.
Excellent. What part of Canada are you moving to?
I am the Ontario. The IT companies are mostly there. So
Great. So if you need any help in the future, because you've helped everyone with this video, if you need any help in the future, just let me know, and I'll try and help you out.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.